All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is put the rear planet in and the transfer gear, and then we're gonna drop in the compounder assembly and put that gear in, transfer gear as well. All right, so let me just reset and I will be right back. Okay, so now we're gonna put the rear planet in, which has the exciter ring on it that the output speed sensor reads. And there's been bulletins put out through my tech service that I belong to that some people may install accidentally like a 604 rear planet, which would fit, but the teeth on the exciter ring are different. So when the output sensor reads it, it's gonna cause some problems, it's gonna cause some codes to show up. So just make sure, if you do have to change it, that it is the correct one. All right, so I'm greasing up the bearing and grease up the races here. And this is the transfer gear. Okay. All right, now you have a spacer. That's gonna go on here. All right, so what I'm gonna do, right now I have the transmission laying on, like this is where the final drive would go. So that's how I normally lay it here when I build a unit. So let me put the piece on, put the gear on, then I'll turn it around. So I'm just gonna kind of hold this in place. Okay, the gear is gonna go on so much and then just stop. Okay, all right, so it's in the spline. Now we have the large and that is 1.5 inches. Okay. Okay, now the torque spec on this is 200 foot-pounds. I pretty much just been using my 1/2 inch gun with socket and kind of just going by feel. And there's that spacer in there as well, so you know, it kind of stops it. All right, doesn't feel too bad. All right, there was no back and forth play, so we can go with that. All right, now we're going to put the lock on. I'm going to stand this up for that. And let me just redo this so you guys can see. Give me 1 second. All right, so we're just going to take a look at this output planet before we install it into the case. Snap ring. There's the planet itself. Now, sometimes if you choose to leave this together, again, wash it up, turn it upside down, leave it to drain, it has this, which is, they call this the output planet selective shim. Let me just turn my lights back on here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we have the output planet selective shim, and then we have a bearing. Okay, it sits on top of the bearing. And then we have another snap ring. ring gear, washer on the back, and then, all right, so I just want to show you the contents of that. All right, so I got there's another bearing in the housing, all right, pressed into the housing, and then I have the other bearing back in place. So we'll set this in, put the snap ring in. Okay. I'm going to put this in a second. So I got the bearing in place. Snap ring. Okay, now this you can actually, this will go in, you spin it, and it just dropped in. So it can't fall out. That's just the point that I wanted to make. Because sometimes I just take these, put it right in the sink, brush it off, turn it upside down and drain, and then I know to look for the piece. Okay, so this is ready to be dropped in. All right, let's just back it out a little bit. Okay, so pretty much this is pretty simple here. This spline just goes into the spline of the pinion. So we just take it and drop it in. That's it, it's in. Okay, now the compounder assembly. You have your feed holes here for the tubes that have to get lined up here. All right, so, and I just have the new end nut on here just to hold it. All right, so this is gonna go like this. So now I may have to just give this a turn to get the gear port. Okay, there we go. All right, so it's almost down. Now I'm just gonna get like a rubber mallet or my dead blow hammer here. Okay, we'll just get it right up to the snap ring line. You have your tapered snap ring. All right, the bevel faces up. Now what I like to do is just make sure the snap ring is in, so I kind of just give it a pry. Okay, very nice. All right, take the nut off. Now let's get the transfer gear. This transfer gear will drop right on. All right, so we're gonna have a spacer as well. Okay. Here's the spacer, here's the transfer gear. This grease on it so it doesn't move out of place. That'll fit right in there. Okay, that'll drop right down, and then we have our new end nut. Look at this, tighten. This is, what is this? This actually is a 2-inch socket. And I'm going to get you the torque spec on that large end nut. Okay, this also, like the other one, is torque spec is 200 foot-pounds on that. Okay, looks pretty good. More. All right, then it has a couple of edges. We got to peen it over to make sure that does not come loose. Okay, now we put our oil scavenger, as they call it, transfer gear oil scavenger. All right, that's locked in. And now we are ready. We're just going to set the cover on. Where is my cover? Just want to set the cover on and make sure everything seems to be flat. Okay, looks pretty good. All right, so what I'm going to do now is going to put a bead of silicone here, and then I'll be back to put the bolts in and tighten it down, and we'll just kind of stop there, and then we can load later on. We can load the planet set, the clutches and steels, and everything up to the pump. All right, so I will be back in a few minutes. Let me just get set up here, get my silicone and stuff. All right, so I have my bead of silicone. We're all ready to go. Everything is tight, turns nice. So we're gonna go ahead and put this cover on. On the bottom here, there's a tension plate. Get to that in 1 second. All right, here is a little tension plate here. That's gonna go. All right, these are 8mm. I'm going to torque those down about 100 foot-pounds. Foot-pounds, I mean inch-pounds. So we got the whole compounder assembly in, the rear planet in, and the next thing we're gonna do, I gotta actually run out now, but we'll probably continue on this later if I can get to it. We're gonna basically load up the whole inside up to the pump. And then after that, we got the valve body, and the last thing we're gonna do, the valve body, the linkages, and the last thing we're gonna do is load the diff in. All right, so that is all for now. And then next, get back to you as soon as I can. So I will be back shortly. Okay, so before we start loading everything into the case, we're gonna put all our bearings and washers in place, and we're also gonna install the 2/4 piston into the housing there. All right, so first, we have our little sun here, and we have a bearing that goes on the sun here. Okay, that'll go there. And we have a bearing onto the planet here. Okay, and on the sun here, this is for the 2/4 hub. You got a 4-tab washer. Just take a look at this. Sometimes this would have to be changed. It does get worn down. All right, I actually keep these in stock because I change these more than the other ones that are in this transmission. All right, but this one looks okay. All right, so we have that. All right, here is the stack up. Low reverse, the pressure plate, and the 2/4 clutch. And here is the 2/4 piston. All right, so we're gonna install this piston. Okay, so the way this is going to get installed when it's in, it's going to get installed face down, so you're really not going to be able to see, make sure, you got to make sure that this goes in, the return spring goes into the slots of the piston. Okay, so, got a little tab here, so this is going to go into the case where it does not turn, so I like to put where one of these tabs is going to go on the return spring, kind of like right in the center, and this will push right in. Okay, and then we just gotta, when we put it in the case, we'll just see how this sits in the case, and then we'll put this, so when we drop it in, it'll perfectly line up, like that, and then we'll be able to put the snap ring in. Okay, so the first couple of snap rings that are going to go in, we're going to stack up the low reverse clutch. And then there's a very thin snap ring that's going to go in first. Now, if you get again, the Chrysler overhaul kit, you're going to get these 2 snap rings. And this is for the low reverse. This is for the 2/4 that's going to go on top of here. All right, but the belt, the one with the edge on it does not come in the kit, but just in case this, I've had instances where this snap ring was broken, so basically this snap ring is sold separately. All right, before with the 604s you have to buy a matching plate and snap ring kit, but basically you just take the measurement of this and buy the snap ring, but you still got to make sure that that pressure plate does not move. All right, so when we put this little one in, the way that they really want these facing, as far as these two, is one of them they want the opening facing the 9 o'clock position, and one they want the opening facing the 3 o'clock position, so it's opposite. I mean, if you don't do it that way, honestly, I don't think it's a big deal, but according to ATSG, that's what is recommended. right, so let me just get set up for this, and we will start loading everything into the case. Now, before we load the input drum into the case, we're going to air check that because I did not do that with you guys. All right, so let me just get set up for this, and we will continue. All right, so we're going to load the low reverse clutch pack into the case. Start with a steel. All right, so the steel is only going to go in one way. So if you look at all the tabs here, the space and the two tabs, all right, if you kind of just look into the case, you should be able to see how it goes. And then just fit it into the, drop it right in. And these steels again are thinner than the 2.4, so you don't really want to get them mixed up. They'll fit, of course, but you just don't really want to get them mixed up because then your clearance is not going to be correct. Okay, so now we're going to put the very thin snap ring in. Okay, and again, they want this one, or it doesn't matter which one facing the opening, the 3 o'clock, and the other one facing the 9 o'clock. And then there's the 2 grooves, so this is going to go in on the bottom one. Okay, now we're going to put the last clutch in, and we're going to put the pressure plate in. Okay, so the side with the step here is going to face down, and really the same shape as the steel, so it'll just drop right in. All right, so let's take a check of the clearance here before we put the snap ring in. Yeah, that's going to be good. Okay. All right, so now the thicker snap ring has a flat side and it has a bevel side, and the bevel side is going to face up, and we'll do this opening at the 9 o'clock position. Right now I'm just going to air check it real quick just to seat everything. And it's holding that pressure pretty good. Okay. All right, so let's, all right, so the low reverse, they want 35 thousandths to 58 thousandths. So let's see if we can get a reading real quick. and I have 45. So that is perfect. Okay, now we have the sun gear bearing here. Okay, front planet and ring gear bearing here also. So I want to just give another air check to make sure that that planet is in. Okay. Yep, it's not popping up. That's good. Okay, next is going to be the 2-4 clutch pack. And we're going to start with a clutch disc and end with a steel. And these again are thicker. Okay, so really the same shape as the low reverse. So that'll drop right in. Okay. Now we have the setup here, the spring and the piston and a piston retainer. So, feed hole is here for the clutch. If you can see the scribe here, the feed hole is there. So we've got to line those holes up. And then this tab will go into a certain spot so it doesn't spin. So I have the opening where that tab goes, and it's going to be right here. Tab is going to go right here. So we're going to put the bevel spring with the opening there. I'm sorry, with the tab there. And then we're going to drop this in. Okay. And then I have my snap ring. So this actually is going to have to be pushed down. Let's do this. Okay, I'm just going to turn this here. All right, so I don't really have anything to push this thing down, but I just take a screwdriver here and hold the snap ring in, and it usually goes right in, just like that. All right, so the corner is in. Doesn't have to go down very far. So now we're going to work it around. Okay. So I just kind of hold it, give it a tap. That's it. All right, then what I do, just to make sure everything is good, I got some snap ring pliers here, and I just give it a, okay, that looks good. All right, now on the 2.4, now look up at 30, got a pretty big gap there, 30 to 104 thousandths. I'll see if we can take a reading on this. Let's turn this back on, zero it out, and we'll see what we have. Let's do another one. All right, 65 on this, which is perfect. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Then we have our hub. Line it in. There we go. All right, so the next thing we're going to do to load in is basically the pump and input drum, but I do want to air check the input drum with you guys because I did not do that. So let me just get set up for that, and I will be right back. All right, so we're going to air check the input drum. There's also a bearing that sits back in here. You know, I usually put it on the drum here with some grease on the backside, so when you set it in place, it'll just automatically go onto the drum. All right, so we're going to air check this. Make sure my O-ring is good. All right, so first, this is going to be the overdrive. Okay, this I believe is going to be the reverse. And then the underdrive. Whoa, that's what happens. Okay, that seems pretty solid. Looks good. All right, so let me get set up again here. Because pretty much we're going to load the drum. We're going to put the bypass valve in, pump gasket. I'm going to put the pump in and tighten it down. And then I'll have to stop there. All right, so let me get set up for that again, and I will be right back. Okay, let's just air check this clutch real quick, 2/4 clutch. Okay, that feels good. Okay, so we're gonna load the input drum. All right, here we go. Okay. Now, if you're not sure the drum is down all the way, you can look at where the input speed sensor goes, which if you can see the scribe is right here. And you want to just make sure it's kind of even. The exciter ring is kind of even with the hole where the speed sensor goes through. Then you know it's down all the way. Okay, got the bypass valve next. Gonna just grease that O-ring up. All right, this is a new one that comes in the Chrysler kit. In the Transtech kit, you don't get them. But you want to make sure that the ball and spring in here is free. They recommend you change it. You can get it separately. But if you're dealing with something like with a clogged screen, or when something's coming apart and there's a lot of crap in the unit, it's very possible for this valve to get stuck, ball to get stuck. So, I mean, I kind of evaluate it. Sometimes I use them over. The O-ring, a new O-ring comes in the kit, and sometimes I change them. Okay. All right, there's our pump gasket. Okay, now we're going to set this into place. Now just put a little more grease on these rings and inside where the rings on the input shaft sit. Okay. And also in the Chrysler kit, they give you a new set of pump bolts. But they do not give you those in the Trans-Tech kit. So if you do use the old pump bolts over, which is okay, I would just put a dab of Loctite on it, because for the longest time they always had a problem. I mean, I'm talking 30 years ago, of coming loose. All right, now I've got to try to be careful putting this pump in. I get everything started. Okay. Now let's get the pump down. Sitting pretty solid. All right. Okay, now these pump bolts are going to get torqued down to 20 foot-pounds. Okay. All right, so the pump is loaded in. Whole compound assembly is in. The only thing we really got left, valve body, you know, filter, small things like that. So I'm going to stop there, and then we will continue loading the feed tubes in, valve body linkage, and we'll probably put the top cover on. All right, so that is all for now, but I will return and we will continue with the rebuild.